Alrighty, good afternoon, guys. Taking a look at the day. Very nice morning, obviously. Continuing bid off the open. Opened up about 0.5% higher. Continued that over 1% on the Nasdaq, up to almost 2% on the Nasdaq. 1% here on S&P. Continued to melt through lunch. Just taking profit a little bit, but if you look, we actually ended exactly where we left the stream when we talked about this is exactly where we're going to close it, and we actually did. We traded sideways right to it, to the almost the exact number from when I said that. Definitely one of those days. Even though we melted further up, we took profit right back in there. So we put basically everything on, and we finished right where we figured it would be. And so that's definitely a good sign to have a little bit of a read there, and really just continued strength through the rest of the day. Again, even though it takes profit here at close, it's just the same orders continue to go through. A lot of buying, a lot of demand. So definitely a very bullish start to the week. And again, we should expect, with the way in which trading is happening right now, that Mondays are sort of the day for really the one day of the week that we're going to see the most of uh, a nudge one way or the other. And so since most of it was all bid today, that definitely shows what the week has, right? And we've seen this recently, sort of a setting the tone, and really most orders are going to be done on Monday. Now that can set up some slower days to come in the week until we get towards the end of the week. We'll have to see. And again, we've been doing this flip flopping on whether inflation is bad, inflation's good. And I don't know. That's a lot more of a media sort of idea than an actual sort of day-to-day trading sort of phenomenon. Obviously, people have made up their minds and are they're either executing what they have planned, or they're just still unsure and they haven't done anything. So seeing the bid continue here, and a big mark is really again how we've come over the local high and we've continued to climb up through. When we look across every single index here, we are rated all-time highs. Even the Nasdaq, which again Nasdaq being a little bit further behind, but tech rebounding, we're right there. And so certainly after today, we're closer to getting all-time high this week again, which should just set us back on the same trend. I do have some, you know, questions about whether or not we're going to be able to get through here. I talked about this on Friday that if here on Monday we're going to come up to the trend line, then the next day we're looking to possibly gap up here to the next trend line. We didn't really close that, close enough, I would say. I mean, we pulled back a little bit here. It's about 30 basis points of a difference compared to what I was talking about. It'd be about 1% to gap up there. I wouldn't put it to the highest chance. I would say a gap up to this level through here is possible. And then you go bid all the way from the open. So one of two possibilities for tomorrow for having this bid day is we open about, this would be almost 0.5% higher tomorrow. So we open about 421 on the SPY. And then from open, you go from 421 on SPY up to here in the 423, whatever this is up here, right? It's the all-time high. And so you see how this trend line lines up with the all-time high. If we open there, then I would say that happens immediately off the open, because again, this area, we have seen that this little gap in here either gets cleared very quickly, so when price pulls back, it instantly comes back, or we gap it, or we push through very quickly, right? And so one of those sort of things here that we are either going to get up there into the next level of supply and trade through all-time highs on the trend there, or we're going to continue through here and we'll dick around for a little bit, which again would mean we're a little bit slower, which would be more passive and probably the best. But based on today, I think this is where mega caps really are in control, and Nasdaq still is not at all-time high, or as close to all-time high as the S&P, and so you can put a lot of points on still, right? When we look at things like Apple today, this is not that it's not a heck of a lot of points on something like Apple here. That this goes up 2%, then Nasdaq's gonna go up 2%, right? And so really the story today was Google, Microsoft, Facebook, the other mega caps putting a lot of points on here. When you look at these charts here, it is a little different. The form is a little bit more bullish since they put so many points on. One of the One of the charts that again is a little bit further behind is still Amazon. Uh, it's hard to tell exactly, with Amazon and Apple how exactly uh, they're doing compared to Google and Microsoft, for instance, or Facebook, how sharp those are. But I'm going to continue again. I'm trading those mega caps as my sort of my 10% of growth. Again, the other risk trades are just sort of, they don't really add up to anywhere close to what these trades are. So I'm just going to stick with these trades. And again, a very nice day today to start the week. And so there's no reason to be like, well, okay, I'll take my profit now. And when you ask like a transition question, there's not really one here. It doesn't really make sense to take profit here to look to re-enter. So we continue to push, right? We're continuing this trend up here. The biggest thing is on that tech side, which is weaker with inflationary pressure, is that there's higher lows, and that's all that matters. Is that you keep putting a higher low on. We've seen some nice days where we put more bid on. That shows that there's upside potential. So overall, Nasdaq's getting going, so we're doing all right. The low buys have paid off so far, doing very well. If we look at the value side, continuing to sort of just chug along, right? It's a little bit slower, but again, the ratio is pretty much spot on with the S&P here, a little over 0.5% on the Dow. So doing pretty damn well here. Is again, there's not much stopping banks, not much stopping energy. When we look at these again, doesn't look the greatest looking chart, but this was up 1% today. You look at banks, it's not the it's not the greatest looking chart, but again, there is this entire idea that we've seen in the financial space of a little bit of a short term sort of flag sort of situation that you're breaking out of a flag or something here, right? Doji on today is not the greatest candle to break out on, but again, this is one of those ones that you're probably just going to open up higher. You're going to get one of those really weird Deutsche Bank candles that, again, if you haven't looked at this chart, this thing probably just opens up in a really weird spot, like one of these candles in here. Now, this is an earnings candle, but you get these, again, if you guys remember how you get dojis and shit everywhere on this chart. This sort of thing, this is a lot of bid here, and you look at these charts, you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's why we're trading banks, right? And so we looked at Bank of America intraday here today. This is what you're looking at. You're looking at a pretty sharp rally coming out of here. What does that translate to? Translate to the Dow really leading through, and value continue to lead through. And this should coincide with energy continue to come up, with oil really just being the commodity now that's looking to put points on. So we'll see how banks do. And so again, we're sticking with those trades very heavily. Want to mention on the travel side, wind got going a little bit here. Didn't close as high as the bid. This has a possibility that travel opens up above its resistance. Again, we've continued the travel trade. We added onto it with things like wind here on the casino side. But when you look across, these are also coming out of this short-term consolidation, which again we took this trade back over mid-May area, and we've continued to push them even after a little bit of a pullback. These look maybe prime for tomorrow to do well, and so even tomorrow there's some more charts out there that really didn't put, they put points on today, but when you look at sort of the technical standpoint and the trend that's there, the trend lines are about to be broken on a lot of those charts on the short term. So there should be points that come through. This can cause, again, all of those opening higher is possibly going to cause that average to open higher, which we were just looking at on the S&P. So there's a lot of reasons why the open should be higher. Big, obviously, view on China and whether China is going to open higher and whatever the hell is going on over there. So with every single day they're talking about more regulations. They have the whole thing going on with the other institution that's about to be broken up, and there's all kinds of possible sort of collateral that could come out of some of the things happening there right now. But it shouldn't be enough to throw us off course or anything like that. But gonna keep our eyes there. When we look at some other charts, BA was the one that we looked at last Friday, but or again, the candle that opened on Friday was great. We did 3% on Friday. A great start here coming out of it. Again, when you get a gap up candle like this, it's not always clear and it's not always easy to continue that move after a big move. Sometimes you take profit on that. Very nice candle on VA today. And this is where you're now in open space, and you have an area that price trades through very quickly, right? If you look at just the local context, we traded through this at a 2 day sort of average, right? 1 2 1 2, this coming down 1 2. What are we gonna do here? We're gonna put points on. Now it's not. I mean, it's not like it's a heck of a lot of points or something. Uh, Almost 6% enough for me. So it's definitely doable, and this would be starting a rally instead of a trend. And again, this is where points get put on a lot quicker, and this is where we need to be mindful that if you're in this position, the transition trigger happens a lot quicker, right? You get something that happens very violently quickly. You're looking to take profit and then re-enter the trade if you need to. Sometimes you can just hold through it, whatever, right? But if we're able to, then we want to be able to transition the trade, take the points when we can, right? I'm going to mention some of the arc things here again. Tech's coming back, and we're looking for retail. So, been mentioning some of these ideas coming out of the low. These continue to do well even into the close. Sometimes you can see that we start off strong on tech and then we finish weaker. Some things will close lower, but we saw these charts continue to do well. I mentioned net today coming through the trend line. This did pull back on the trend line like we would like to see. And so this sort of trend here, holding support, continue to move through, climbing through sort of the rungs of a ladder here. These are looking a lot better. When they were looking pretty sort of, they did not have a nice story to them. These look a lot better and offer, offer a lot more upside now and offer momentum trades to those coming in. So we're definitely looking for some of these to continue. You can look at things like CLDR, these kind of charts. Again, all mimic a very similar understanding, and they're all coming off of a big downturn, right? And at a low, and hey, we'll see if these come through again. More of on our risk side, on the risk view. Let me bring it over to the list over here. We have things like Snap and Twitter that we mentioned in the morning. They continue to put points on, actually. And this, again, you enter into an area that has no resistance up here. Again, you're breaking through the trend line. This pattern that we had through here, you can just take that trend line and drag that up to this trend lines through here, right? This is pretty close. The question is whether or not you continue through tomorrow or you get rejected here. Was this a rejection and we're going to come down now, or are you going to break out through here? It would just be a longer sort of consolidation that happened. They look pretty hot. And again, this is one of those things where some of these charts don't look great. But if the market's going to continue through the upside, then there's not really anything stopping these charts from continuing to go to the upside as well, right? So Twitter as well. You look at these charts. I mean, Twitter got destroyed, right? And we laid off it for this again. We made sure not to touch it. But over here, you continue to see it go to the upside. You have to start to obviously put it into a little bit of a question of, okay, what about like the Netflix trade? It always swings from the low to the high. Like, are we really gonna? Are none of these things gonna happen, right? And so, some of these tech stories they make a lot of sense. So again, we want to keep our eye on it. The value side, again, we don't really need to talk about things there. Just individual tickers we talked about. I mentioned a lot of REITs from this morning. You look at any of the big REITs, they're all doing very well. They're all breaking out, continuing. So I do like some of these tickers on the value side that we haven't really mentioned too much. Just today, I brought them up. So continuing to look for those. Otherwise, travel's really our short-term value bet going on. I mentioned X this morning. I'm just going to mention it again. I'm not trading any of this stuff right now until we sort of see it develop. Now that China's cracking down on sort of commodity speculation, it's specific to the metal side, so that does affect steel. This could be good for a chart or a ticker like X, but it's not clear on the chart yet, and it's not clear whether the sort of global macroeconomic situation is going to divulge into the U.S. Steel side of things benefiting, or if it causes a problem where now we get this weird sort of scenario where we need to actually support the market. And we've done this in the past. You can look at other commodities where the US is kind of a dick when it comes to trying to take over a commodity. Best example is cotton. If anyone doesn't know what happened in cotton since the start of this country being born, or how it is now, do you know what we do? We really subsidize cotton a ton, even though we don't really produce that much anymore. We still try to keep the price as low as possible so that we dominate that market, so that sort of lesser countries, like lesser on the economic side, right? Third world countries, they can't even afford to keep up with how low we have the price of cotton. That sort of thing. Let's just hope we don't get some weird, uh, you know, old Donald Trump tariff man sort of scenario where Biden goes, you know what? This is an opportunity for those in Pennsylvania to start making more steel, and we get some weird situation. It's possible. It's entirely possible we get some, because we're all about free market, and now China's trying to regulate their commodity market, as if that's not what we do to all of our markets already. So we'll see if something comes out of that. But it's not clear whether or not the steel side, that commodity, is going to continue to uh, move in the same way. Again, it's like near term volatility that causes problems with trying to price it. And so obviously all of these spending bills and everything are going to go through. There's going to be a ton of economic activity, ton of infrastructure. They're going to need this, but we put a lot of points on already. So we're going to be careful about putting on too many big bets that may not sort of maneuver in the way that we've been trading it before, right? This is going to be new price movement. So you can already tell how it's sort of leveled out. We have not seen it level out like this in quite some time. Last time was over here, and that was a completely different scenario with it dojied out of its mind. So I'm going to mention that because that's been a pretty go-to trade for a little while. So keeping that in mind. I don't think we need to mention any other individual tickers again. Well, let me bring up again the semi side. The last thing is the semiconductor sector did do well today. Again, coming off the low. Now, this is basically just trading like the other growth tickers off of their low, and there's not some sort of signal that says that this is being traded as if now it's something, if it's something greater than the other growth tickers or not. It's being traded on an average. Well, we want to keep our eye on it because this could just swing out of nowhere. And when you look at a lot of the charts, there's a pretty open area up to the high. And so trying to press this advantage a little bit if there is going to be some momentum, and keeping in mind, again, that retail traders are probably coming back, and we've seen some numbers that prove that things like AMD, Nvidia, those are, AMD is a bit of a meme ticker. This is sort of in a prime spot that if semiconductors are going to pick up sort of where they've been lacking, and some of these supply issues actually end up helping them on the price side, then this is a really good spot. I mean, look at this AMD chart. If you see this is the resistance up here at the 9.5. From where we are up to there is quite a bit of points. And we've done that in a straight line before. We do it a lot. So coming off this low, again, we've bought in this low area, and looks pretty good from here. So we're going to want to make sure we keep this trade on and don't get pushed out of any of these if possible. So I'm going to be really looking to put these on and get them going. And, the easiest thing is, again, our NVIDIA. The NVIDIA side is, I want to talk about it differently because the NVIDIA trade's completely different looking. This is just a beautiful looking chart. It sort of signifies everything that you want on the other semiconductors, but has not happened. Are these really nice big rallies that come out? All of this was the market, and then the coming out of the move here is exactly what you want to see. And again, you got that earnings coming up 2 days from now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and especially this, it should just be good anyway. It doesn't matter if the price goes down after it was good. It's the fact that it's good that will continue to allow it to go up in the future, right? And so none of these trades are small, sort of short-term trades. We're not betting on whether the price goes down the day after. We're betting on whether it goes up a week or two later, right? Which, if the earnings were good, then it would continue to do so anyway, right? It would have to really blow it up, and that's not what's happening. We know that basically every single one of these companies are dry on supply. The one thing to keep in mind is that with crypto coming down, whether or not that supply starts to get freed up because miners are not buying as much, I would argue that they've already bought it, so it doesn't really matter, right? Those orders have already happened. Those things have already been produced. These companies already made the money, right? And then the next part is that things like Ethereum are actually still doing well on the mining side. So I don't see any of that changing. And the thing here to remember is that this side of technology, they create new products every single year. They're always creating, and there's not really a limit to it. Obviously, there are some technical limits that we're reaching on some of these things, but they just keep building more, right? And so when it really comes down to it, there's not a true supply problem. There's not an innovation problem. There's no problem, right? There's just too much demand for the supply. So that's not a bad thing. So we're gonna keep trading semis. Uh, we had to pause after I bought it about 4 or 5 times on the way down. None of them went to the upside until this one finally. We obviously had to take a pause there for a moment, and so now we're looking to really get them going. And with the tech move coming, retail coming back, inflation shouldn't affect these things anyway. They should benefit it. At the end of the day, they're not really tech companies. They're manufacturing companies like that. They're supply logistics. I mean, what else do you want to make them? I know they innovate every year, but it's really not a tech company. And so the fact that they trade like one is a momentary sort of thing, right? Uh, I think that's it. We're going to go into tomorrow with questions of all-time high, opening higher. If we get a bit of a surprise open tomorrow, again, we did a lot of points today. Historically, you don't have to continue to put points on here. Don't think that's. I don't think anyone's thinking we're going to open that much, or we're going to open lower or anything like that. But if it did happen, then we'd be watching for if it's bid or not. And again, this would all come from China. So if something bad happens because China does something, then it'll be commodity side, and we'll have to watch and see if whether those actually affect pricing or not. I don't believe so. I think we're very bullish. Looks very good for our long trade. So I'm excited to keep making some more money. So I will see you guys in the morning. Those of you that did not buy on the dip, you still have plenty of time. Don't sit around, watch pricing. Just be in position. Just hang out. Sit there. Small question, but keep an eye on Twitter. Where would you draw lines? Let me take a look. There's not really lines to draw on this chart. That's the honest truth. So you can take this old trend line and copy it over. Take the old trend line, copy it over. That's about it. There's nothing else here. There's not even levels down here. You're really, honestly, all you're doing is waiting to get back up in here. It's like 62, and then you're back into here. You're going to have a situation where this is just going to get removed. It doesn't matter because price will be back up in the normal levels, and that's the situation, right? This is where these trades you're not even really getting that many points to trade it back up to here because there's just sort of an understanding. If you remember this whole debacle over here, we took these trades through in this area and traded all through here. If you guys remember these trades, we had a couple different trend lines. We traded it all the way through in here and continued that trade. A lot of this was very straightforward. Look at the connected pricing, right? It's the same thing here. It's just we had to give it some time. It's very similar. It's a little spooky how similar these two moves were, right? Even though they were completely different things. No levels, all trend line. What you can say is that if it starts to create a trend line on a different sharper line, something like this through here, then you'll see that. But otherwise, no levels. It's all about, again, it's just all about continued demand and buying, higher lows, continuing when you get a stop candle, making sure it's still bid. This is all dependent on the market right here, I would say. And then the sort of, again, elephant in the room is retail just buying up calls and shit. There's a lot of call buying in here. And if you look at the Snap and Facebook charts specifically lined up with their options, there's a ton of volume down here in options buying up. So, I mean, that's going to lead to upside. So, again, the question is whether we're continuing. If the market stopped tomorrow, for instance, then that chart would stop as well. So I would just look at the Twitter chart as the rest of the Nasdaq. So I do like where all those charts are though. That's why I keep bringing them up. I think they're definitely doable. And the thing I like the most is that you're buying something that's risky, but using the greater fool idea is that there's going to be a greater fool that's going to buy your calls even if they're a little out of the money, a little short term. Right now is you're a little bit in a momentum area, so someone will buy it, and if not, a market maker will. So, maybe you lose a couple points off your profit, but someone out there will get you filled. So, uh, it's definitely the time to continue to take risks, keep pushing our risk, which is why we went from really slow trades to trying to find some greedy ones, right? We got to be greedy when we can, and that's what we got. So we're trading tech, having fun. I will see you guys in the morning. Enjoy your night, your evening, afternoon. Enjoy.